love watching the mic levels pop out with the banjo. You gotta turn the mic, move the mic back a little bit. All right, this is month 3. Month 3 of owning the banjo. Really, golly. Seems like I've had it forever, but anyways. It's coming along. Still working on the rows like that and getting most of my songs down a little bit better. You know, same mistakes still. Just gonna take. I can see at this point now it's just taking time to practice and get really comfortable with the tunes. And every now and then, like I said last month, probably like 8 times out of 10 I can get it down and play the song right. And in a pressure situation like this, sitting in front of the camera, still not quite confident to pull it off really super clean. But it does come out every so often, you know. Especially when I don't try to do the speed. When I can I keep it medium tempo. Getting there, and I found a problem in Foggy Mountain Breakdown where I was putting in an extra note and then hanging on to another note just a little bit too long, so I made up for the extra note, but I was half a beat off, you know. And I did find that. I went back and I checked my tab and I looked at it very carefully, and what I was doing, God, I don't know if I even want to do it, but and then right here, I was going, and it should go. Like that. And I'm getting that lick in there that I couldn't do last time. I was leaving that out and just doing the roll, but I'm really working at getting that lick in. And I have found, personally, I mean, everybody's different on this, but I found that I use, it's got to be fast. It's got to go. And I can do the slide better than I can do the hammer on. In my mind, I think when I do a hammer on, I tend to do it in the quarter notes or eighth notes, whichever way you want to cut it. But I tend to do it like this. And it needs to be. Okay, so that's getting down. And it took me, gosh, 2 weeks to retrain my brain, you know, to get that right. And I finally got also where I can tap my foot and do this too, and get it on the beat, which is really good. Not your Foggy Mountain Breakdown yet because of that syncopated thing. It's hard to do with my foot. I also discovered there's something, I thought about this a little bit. And on mandolin and guitar, maybe I mentioned this, but anyways, on mandolin and guitar, I'm doing a flat pick, I'm going down. So da 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 da, and your hand goes down with the beat. So your hand's keeping time, you know. And it's easier. Whereas banjo, you're just sitting here, and the fingers are rolling, and you can't move your hand in time. And when I realized that, I said, yeah, that's why it's hard to play with the metronome, because you can't get into it, and you know, like that. You can't move. So I thought about that, and so anyway, I kind of sat on those songs for a little bit. What I'm working on now, started finally doing this just a couple of days ago, really. I was really working on getting my chords down, so. The reason I want to get the chords is because in every instrument that I play, one of the first things I do, if I don't do it totally by ear, like on resonator guitar is something that's just relaxing for me. I don't really want to know what I'm doing. I just want to sit down and play notes. I'm never going to play resonator guitar as a dobro player or anything like that. I play blues on it. And so for blues, it's just, it's finding those notes and just sitting there. So on resonator guitar, a lot of times, in fact, I like to think about a tuning and throw it into some tuning or another that I'm sure it exists, but I don't know my way around. I don't know the notes, and I just sit there and I absolutely just play it by ear, and that's what that's for. But on mandolin, guitar, banjo, and bass, I always sit down and figure out the note triads. So the root, the third, and the fifth, root and the third, the fifth. And I figure them out all over the neck, the root and the third, fifth, the patterns everywhere. It's time to do that on the banjo, and I thought about the other day that I've always played around with moving those triads around, especially on guitar. That's what opened up the fingerboard for me, was taking two note snippets, G and D or G and B or whatever, and finding them everywhere on the neck. And then I would take a G, place it right there, and then find out what the next notes were on the chord. So if I wanted a G chord, I'd find the B's and the D's that were around that G. And if I wanted a C chord, I would find the E and the C that was around that G. And if I wanted to get to a D chord, then it would be half a step back to an F sharp, and then I would find the D's and the A's. And so I would home bass, and then I would put all the chords together out of that little position, and then do that all up and down the neck. So here's a G, here's a B. And I'd go up there and find that B, and I'd find all the G chord places. And then, okay, there's a C. So I'd find all those C chord places. And then I would scoot back one fret to an A and find all the D chord places. And then shift them back and forth and back and forth and just make patterns back and forth. So I need to do that on banjo. I also need to work on my rolls, and I hate just sitting here doing this. Because it's boring and it's not musical. It's just a pattern that I'm doing out of repetition, and there's nothing musical about it. So that's not that. You know what I need to do is I need to do my chords and do my rolls on the chords. So and then shift chords. And I haven't got it quite down yet, but that's what I'm working on now, and that's what I'll work on for probably the next month. And that will isolate the two pieces of your brain. It also gives you some musicality, and you're going to use that on the backup, because I already hear little snippets of, J.D. Crowe backup as I'm doing that thing. And so and then you can hear I hear the little rolls going on there. Etc. Again, I just started on this midweek, so obviously it's not smooth. It's going to have to be really, really slow. Like that. Okay, that's the idea. So, but I have got. The other thing about getting the chords down finally, first thing I was surprised, well, I've only got 3 positions here, That one, And that one, I thought, that's it. 3 positions, okay? That's not too bad. And then take your D. And so on. So this month, what I will be working at is shifting those back and forth. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. Back and forth, make up little patterns like that. So, okay, that's all I got so far. I went to a friend's house and I got sick down there. He's a banjo player, and we had like about 10 banjos that we looked at, and I came home really sick with banjo acquisition syndrome. Of course, his banjos are really, really, really good. 1920s and 1930s. Fun stuff. And I played a bunch of banjos down there, and what I found out is that I really, really like the brass hoop ring banjos over the tone ring banjos. All the tone ring banjos are like this one. They're jangly and lots of overtones, which I guess a lot of people like, but with my hearing, what the taste I like is the brass hoops were clean. Oh man. And one in particular, I'm working on getting that one. 1934 style one, with the 5-string neck on it, and it's just one of those. It was like some guitars like that 1934 D28 I've been recording, just magical. The setup was right, the feel was right, the sound was right, everything was just right on that banjo. So I really, really like that one. So I'm thinking about getting another banjo, and I'm looking at possibly the Gold Tone BG-150F. So if any of you guys have any personal experience with that specific banjo, I know the rest of the Gold Tone lines that the up into the 250 range are pretty good banjos, because I played a couple of them. I used to own one, as a matter of fact. That was the first banjo I ever had. I'm sorry, not really the BG-150, the Bluegrass 150F. And I used to have a BG-250, Orange Blossom Special. It was pretty good, I wish I kept it, because it was probably a better banjo than this, and maybe, this is a good banjo. But point is out of 10 banjos, whatever, how many there was a lot of banjos there. I picked 4 hoop tones as my favorites. And there are, and they were lighter, which of course, I really like that light, thinner feel. So nice. So if you have any personal experience with the Gold Tone BG-150F with the brass hoop on it, let me know, because I want to know if it's a reasonable quality banjo. I'm not expecting a pre-war Gibson hoop. But I would like for it to, it needs to sound better than this one, or at least it needs to sound the quality of this one with the hoop ring. So I really want one. At least I'm going to check one out, So the other thing we did on this banjo is we tightened up the hoop, or tightened up the head, and you use your banjo gauge. And I had it about 86 pounds or so, and we bumped it up to 92, and yeah, it sounded better. And then we had a whole bag of bridges. A bag of bridges. So we started putting bridges on. And when we got to this one, we both said, oh yeah, that's it. It cleaned up a lot of the overtones for me, and made it crisper, cleaner, not as jangly, not as ringy sounding. I don't know what it is. It's got a P on it. You banjo players can tell me what it is. It's got a P. And it's not a 3/8, it's a 5/16, so it put the action right where I wanted it. And I also noticed that, and I know it's good to do this, but I also noticed that most of the bridges in that bag of bridges, all kinds of different woods and fun stuff, lean back. And I know that they should lean back because that's the way I do my mandolin bridges and violin bridges, fiddle bridges, and all of that. And boom, immediately lean back. This one has a rounder top on it, a bigger top. I don't know if that reduces the rings, whatever. We put this one on, we both went, oh, that one's it. That's it. So we talked about this head a little bit and the fact that nobody uses the fiber skin head. When I got back from the trip, I put the frosted head on it. I have an extra frosted head. I put it on. It was horrible. I couldn't stand it. It was, it had so much ring and overtone to it. And I went up and down on the tension, and it just, all I did was change the pitch of the overtones up and down, but too much. And then I thought, we selected this bridge for this head, and so I just went back to this head. And the only thing I don't like about this head is it's slick. And I noticed that right about the frosted head is, boom, man, it's sticky. You can put your fingers down there. And this is pretty slick, so I guess I just got to get used to that. Maybe I'll put some rosin down there or something. I'll find out what tricks people use for this. And, I get used to it. It's a mental thing. So I went back to this head, and it works great with this bridge. And 92 pounds of pressure, which was much more than I had on it. I think it sounds pretty good now. I mean, I heard my friend play, and he's a good banjo player. And, it sounded good. It sounded, like an inexpensive banjo. You could tell the difference. You could definitely tell the difference between that 1934 Gibson. There's no question. Man, I picked that thing up, and it's just, wow. There was a sound, pow! But clear and not annoyingly loud. So, I have banjo acquisition syndrome. BG-150F. If you know anything about it, I'm going to know. All right, so the other thing I noticed about this banjo, and I really got to do this, I got to refret it. Because all the other banjos had, guitar wire, thin guitar wire, 78 thousandths of an inch banjo wire, and much easier to fret. And as I'm doing chords here, I notice, especially like on this finger here, it's in the middle of the fret, and now all of a sudden I can't really get clear note out of it. It's not forgiving at all. You got to be right up on it. It's taking a lot of pressure on that pinky to make a clear note. More pressure than I would like to do, So it's getting refretted this month. Got the fret wire sitting out there. I just basically wanted to make sure that I was going to kind of hang on to this banjo before I refret it. But we both agreed that it was pretty good, especially for what I paid for it, which was $400. It's pretty good for a $400 banjo, and so it's certainly good enough to get me going, and that kind of thing. And I don't even like the metal tone rings. So yeah, it's good enough for that, And my goal is now looking down the road for a hoop, or I do want to play a John Hartford again, because like I mentioned, a John Hartford was my first good banjo, and it's wood all the way up. And there's a couple of used ones floating around, but they're expensive. And I know where my old one lives, and I want to try and play it again and just see if it's as good as I think I remember it being. And maybe it's not. Maybe I'll just forget about that. But maybe I want to go for another Hartford. So, point is, I'm kind of looking. I'm thinking about looking for a banjo, another banjo, a better banjo, stepping up to a $2,000 or $3,000 banjo. But I want it to be a good one, and I know from playing the 4 hoop heads that I need to play it, because that one really was just, everything was right. The neck was right, the frets were right, everything was right, and you could set it up. Guitars I can set up and everything, but I don't want to start with something that is going to take me a lot of time and experimentation to get to. I want to start with something that I like right away, because I've also learned that about guitars, is that if I don't like the neck, it's a lost cause, And there are just certain guitars that I will pick up and go, I like this one. There's just something about that guitar, the way it feels, the way it vibrates or whatever, that just, resonates with me. And so I'm not in any hurry to get a banjo. I don't need a banjo. I don't need a hole in my head. I don't need any of that stuff. So I'm not in any rush, but I am kind of looking around. And banjo's kind of fun. I feel like I'm getting someplace with it. But I need to get to these chords, and I need to get to the practicing the rolls so that I can just play with the banjo. On guitar, mandolin, things like that, I spend an hour playing and just fooling around with it and exploring it and seeing what it can do, making mistakes and things like that. I'm not even close to being at that point on the banjo, and that's where I need to get to make the playing fun. And when the playing becomes more fun instead of practice and routine, then it's going to come together better. So that's where I'm at. I think this sounds pretty good now, though, you know. I'm not hearing quite the metallic overtones that it used to have. We both agreed that with this bridge, the head cinch and setup and all that, we like the D string really well. We just went, oh yeah, the D string sounds good, you know. And I got some pointers and stuff, so like on With a Circle Being Broken, you know, I'm playing it like this. And that's just an instinctive thing of me playing the thing. And so I asked for feedback on that, and what he said was, well, I can hear the melody, but it's repetitious. And I thought, yeah, I know exactly, because really I'm just doing the same roll over here, and it's kind of like a guitar roll. So when you're finger picking guitar, amateurs, you know, it's almost like really good finger picking doesn't use a repetitious roll necessarily. But if you play John Denver backup or finger picking for voice backup, a lot of times you have a repetitious roll going on. And I can do some finger picking on guitar, so I know a little bit about this. But it's definitely a thumb, index, thumb, middle, repetitious sort of thing. And that's not the way the banjo is put together. So I know that on something like that, I needed to mix my rolls up. And that's why I want to get to the point where I can do my rolls more automatically in a musical situation. So, you know, like a way to dress up With a Circle Being Broken. And I haven't even looked at tab at all on this. Again, this is just playing the thing, you know. But I need to get more variety in playing. On guitar, you know, I've got all the variety in the world on that. I could do anything I want with my flat pick and on the fly. If I decide to play all upstrokes just to see what it sounds like, I can do all upstrokes, all downstrokes most of the time, all downstrokes. You know, I can fool around on the guitar and mandolin and see if I like the way that sounds or something. It definitely doesn't have to be repetitious. So I need to get away from the repetition on this when I do things automatically. But for 3 months, golly, you know. So let's give it a year. So I did learn that, and I did get a confirmation of that my natural break can sound kind of repetitious. So I've been thinking about that. But you can hear the banjo, you know. It still sounds like tin cans getting pulled behind the car. But it's getting there. I do think that playing the chords and playing the little rhythm stuff and doing the rolls repetitiously on the chords is going to really help. But I can already think of all these games in my head that I want to play. So I might start off on the first G chord with this kind of roll. And then when I switch to the upper G chord, I might go in my head, switch to that kind of roll, you see. So I will be changing my rolls as I change the chord too. And once I get to the point where I get comfortable with that, then I will be doing them in all kinds of combinations, and I think that's going to be really good practice to be able to do them at will as I think of them, because that's what I do in guitar and mandolin. I'm playing along at will on the fly. I think, okay, let's do this and go, try this thing out. So I know that's what I want to do here. I want to be able to switch up my rollers completely. So we're going to get there. And I think that's going to be a fun thing to do too, because it's me coming up with something rather than looking at tab. And then when I look at the tab, then it's just so much faster because you've got the technical abilities down. And my technical abilities are not down on the banjo yet. Nowhere near guitar or mandolin. They're even bass. I'm better at all those. This is way down there. But I need to get my technical abilities up, and that's a fun way to do it. All right. Talked enough already. And you're out of here. I can do that now that I've got a banjo. Bye.